So tonight was supposed to be about the needs map and the human needs map, but I've talked about that a bunch of times. But we're still going to talk about the needs map. But I figured I would give it to you in a way that you've never heard it in your life, in a way that you will actually get it, in a way that actually is going to make sense to you. So everybody's still kind of logging in. So let me just give you one thing that I learned from a 90 something year old professor in psychology when I was stationed in Hawaii. And he said that the one thing that psychologists never get taught is the difference between a wound and a scar. And that a lot of us walk around with open wounds and use the word scars to maybe metaphorically think about them, maybe or talking to our friends about them. And we don't know the difference when it comes to our life. And a scar is something that's healed up, that's still visible. A wound is something that's still open. It still needs a lot of attention. Scars typically don't need attention, but they still are visible to other people. And that's one of the big things we're going to be talking about tonight. That's what the need map is a scar slash wound map. And I'll let you make the decision on which one it is. So we've got Hungary, Budapest here. We've got, I think, a couple Ireland I saw a second ago. And I tried out some frankincense essential oil, which I'm not experienced in oils, and I put way too much on, and it's like bombarding my office right now. Scotland's in the house. All right, let's do this right now. A lot of people think that they know why they do things. They know why they do certain things in their life. And I include myself in that list. But we don't. We really genuinely don't. We do know the story that we tell ourselves about it, which is like the PR version, like a LinkedIn bio version of it. But I will tell you the thing that is running the show was installed in your mind a long time ago, and it's in all of us. And let me start by killing one big ass lie. Human needs are absolutely not some kind of personality trait or a motivational system. What we're talking about with human needs are survival rules that were written into our nervous system at some moment in our childhood, most likely, when the world felt one of three things. It was unsafe, it was unfair, or it was silent. One of those three things: unsafe, unfair, silent. Nobody develops needs on the needs map because their life was badass and perfect. That is not at all how any of this works. Not this reality that we live in. Needs don't come from abundance in our life. They come from absence. And once you see that, and if you really see it, judgment of other people gets very expensive for you. So if judging is a huge pastime for you, I'm here tonight to make it expensive for you. So I'm going to introduce you to a few people, and each one of these people is going to be on the needs map. First person, we'll say his name is Mark, and Mark's the significance guy. But Mark learned very early in his life that silence meant invisibility. When he was 8 years old, nobody noticed him unless he did something, accomplished something, got a good grade. Maybe he won some contest at school. He performed. If he didn't get applause what he was doing, he didn't get eye contact from mom and dad. He didn't get warmth that he needed. So his nervous system learned a brand new rule and kind of made it permanent. If I don't make an impact, I don't exist. And that rule got refined and more permanent as he gets older. And adult Mark, he's not seeking power. What does he want? He wants relief. So he over explains, he name drops, he positions himself in the center of stories all the time. And you can spot him in seconds. He interrupts, and it ain't because he's rude. It's being quiet feels like falling off of his version of reality, feels like a threat. And once you see that, you don't roll your eyes at it anymore. You start thinking, wow, that kid learned that disappearing was dangerous, being insignificant was dangerous. And now we move on to Emily. Emily, the approval need. And Emily grew up in a house where love was conditional. Not that somebody was just, one of her parents was just being an asshole. It was just inconsistent. So praise for Emily showed up randomly. Affection came and went throughout her childhood. So her nervous system never learned to relax without some kind of feedback. So that rule got written very quickly in Emily's nervous system. I need confirmation to be safe or certain. So adult Emily, maybe she works at a firm somewhere and she asks questions where she already knows the answer. She checks the reactions of other people all the time. She softens statements after they land. Uh, you can spot her in 3 seconds. You can hear that. Does that make sense? Nobody's mad, right? Do you think I'm going to be able to do this? And right here is where a lot of people will see weakness in another human being. But that's for amateurs, and this is NCI. That's for people with no training and skill. What you're seeing is a nervous system that's trained to scan for one big thing. It's abandonment. And once you see that, the criticism of Emily feels super childish. Then we move to Carlos. And so Carlos was an outsider. Maybe he moves to a new school and it's thrown into a new culture where there's brand new rules. And belonging for Carlos was never guaranteed. And every rejection that he got burned him just a little bit deeper until his nervous system made that one decision that one day. Being alone is dangerous. So adult Carlos mirrors people without consciously knowing that he's doing it. He agrees even when he shouldn't. He avoids friction like it's toxic or radioactive. You can spot Carlos instantly in your life too. Somebody says, yeah, I'm good either way, whatever works for everybody. This is what an amateur might see as a hesitant person or hesitation. But this is a body that's remembering what absolute and real exile felt like. And his system is trained to avoid that. And suddenly you stop making, or you stop mistaking compliance for weakness. You don't see the weakness anymore. That's for amateurs. And then we move into Sarah. Sarah was corrected a lot publicly as a kid. It was mostly her parents who maybe they were academic types and a few narcissist teachers, which we all kind of go through. So wrong answers didn't get correction and guidance at all. They just got her exposure, social exposure. So embarrassment wired her ass very fast. Being wrong equals danger. And she made that decision when she was 8 or 9. So adult Sarah, she didn't argue to win arguments at all, even though her coworkers think that she's doing that. She argues to protect. So precision and knowledge is her body armor. She uses complexity and nuance as some kind of a riot shield to protect herself. And you can spot Sarah in your life very quickly. They correct small inaccuracies. They overqualify statements. They use logic like a perimeter fence around themselves. And an amateur might think this is arrogance. And I think this is a nervous system saying, never again. We're seeing a wound that took place. And that's the intelligence need. And then we have Jason. And Jason learned something dark pretty early, probably too early in life. And when he struggled, lots of help started showing up. And when he was fine, everyone ignored him. So the nervous system made the deal. If I'm okay, nobody's going to come to help me. So adult Jason minimizes all of his wins. He leads conversations by talking about obstacles. He lives in just about constant overwhelm with his whole life. And you can spot him immediately. Somebody says, "You wouldn't believe what I've been dealing with. You have no idea what I did to get all this done." They always look tired. They're maybe look like they're barely holding it together. And what an amateur would see here is some kind of manipulation. He's doing this to get what he wants from people. But what it is, it's a body asking for support the only way that it ever worked. And then we move to Derek. We talk about strength here. So if you didn't know, that was pity on the needs map. So Derek grew up somewhere where dominance meant or maybe became safety for him. So being soft or open invited some kind of attack when he was maybe in the second grade. So on the playground and in social situations, control means survival. And that rule wrote itself in his nervous system. If I'm not strong, I will be exposed somehow. So adult Derek controls the tone of conversations, the space that he's standing in. He controls the pacing, who's in charge, thinks in terms of hierarchy. He resists being led. And disrespects to Derek feel like a threat. And you can spot Derek very quickly in your life. There's a lot of boundary testing, there's power language. They are intolerant of being corrected most of the time. And what would an amateur say? What do you think an amateur would say that this behavior is? Probably aggression, right? Aggression, dominance, being domineering, controlling. What we're seeing here is armor that never got taken off. That's all it is. When that guy in the giant jacked up truck, and I drive a big truck nowadays, so I think it's great to make that comparison. Maybe they cut you off on the freeway, reach up and flip you off. That's a person who needs to feel safe. And we don't bark unless we're trying to protect ourselves from something hurting us. That's why we see Chihuahuas bark all the time. It's barking out of fear, not domination. So there's one part of this that I never hear people truly understand. If you're not a psychopath, if there's even a sliver of humanity inside of you, then none of this is making you a calculating behavior judgment machine. What this does, it makes judgment start collapsing because you stop seeing behavior as character and you start seeing it as someone's history. Arrogance becomes fear. Control becomes protection. You're seeing validation, validation seeking becomes survival. And then suddenly, everybody looks like they're doing the best they can with the rules that they never consciously agreed to. That's what life looks like at this point. And there's a part of this that's got some teeth, though. Needs don't go away when you succeed. You get successful, all that, and like we imagine, like, oh, once I make $1 million or once I do this one thing, all this shit's gonna fall off of me. Uh, they get better funding, is all that happens. So a CEO with a significance thing, they scale that significance thing. A brilliant academic with the intelligence need just gets to armor it a lot better because now they can win arguments faster. A powerful leader with a strength problem didn't outgrow any fear. They just monetized that fear. So most people confuse coping upgrades for healing. So just upgrading a cope strategy. So write this one down if you're in NCI University, because it's going to change how you understand humans when you go through NCI 1 and NCI 2. So here it is. Needs fire before values every single time. Needs. So values are the story that we tell ourselves after the nervous system has already decided on something. People do not betray their values. They just don't realize that they weren't in control. So they just tell a story afterward. But why does any of this matter? Because normal average people react to behavior, and NCI operators see the reason for the behavior. And I think the moment that you can sit in front of somebody else's need without feeding it, judging it, getting pulled into some little game, you become the calmest person in the room because you're not seeing bullshit anymore. You're seeing through this NCI lens. So every need that you don't identify is going to make decisions for you in your own life. And maybe a dangerous part of this is the world will reward your unhealed needs right up until it costs you something big, a relationship, a big ass business deal. Maybe what it costs you is a version of you that you can't get back. So the needs map is just one little tiny piece of learning NCI level one. And it's not about control or like, oh, what kind of personality type are you? This needs map is about reality, real life. And reality is the beginning of freedom. So once you can see the child who wrote the rule, you finally get to decide whether you still live by that rule. And I was trying to explain something to my our NCI team about a week ago. We were on a meeting and they said that this resonated with them. So I'm going to give it to you too. And these are the 5 types of people. This is totally different from the needs map. But like they were talking about some of our clients do this, some of our clients do that. And they were trying to figure out why. And I think it's about 5 types of people. And the 5 types are number 1 is consumers. And the consumer type consumes endlessly these videos and podcasts and clips and threads and shorts and stuff like this. They know things, they recognize concepts, and they feel smart, but nothing changes for them. So they collect information like souvenirs, but they never touch the skill. And in their head, they say, yeah, I've seen that. I already know this. I'm still learning. What they're really doing is information seeking or just avoiding friction in their own life. Skill requires some exposure. And then you have type 2, which is the collector type. And these people save everything. They've got tabs open, they've got notes kind of half written, they've got some courses that they're going to start soon. They're closer, but they're still a little frozen. So they confuse intent with movement. So they're waiting for the right time, the right mood, some motivation is going to come. They don't realize mastery doesn't come after confidence. It's always before. And then we have level 3, which is the curious client. And this is how I described clients to our team so they would understand. And the curious people start to test. They try out a phrase, they notice a reaction, they replay conversations in their head to try to do stuff. They're dangerous, but usually to themselves because they felt it work, but they don't really trust themselves enough to commit. So they oscillate between uh, doubt and excitement for things. And this is the most uncomfortable level here for a lot of people because uh, it's dangerous because they know that there's more and they can't unknow it. Then we have the committed people. Committed are the deciders. They stop asking, is something worth it? And they start asking, how fast can I get good at this? They invest time, they invest attention. They don't spend time, they invest time. And they invest in some reps and they don't need motivation at all. They just want mechanics, they want results, and they're done dabbling. So they want outcomes that they can repeat on command. And then the level 5 people, and these are more rare, and these are like what I called on this call, and just because I wanted everything to start with a letter C, is commanders. So the commanders don't talk about influence; they just create it. They engineer these conversations, they shape the rooms that they walk into, and these are the people that have learned enough to anticipate resistance before it ever exists. So they're not relying on a bunch of luck or tactics they got from some sales training that's based on a book written in 1970. They're relying on systems instead of tactics, systems. And the quiet truth here, in my opinion, is commanders aren't more aggressive. They're more precise. They don't dominate people, they understand them, and that's a big ass difference. So, there's nothing wrong with being a consumer. Most people live there forever. But at some point, the people who change their lives, they stop consuming explanations and start just installing some kind of capability in themselves. So, this is my ask to you that if you're in that zone, if you're in the 3 to 5 zone, then just get started with something small. Take the free course if you haven't yet. Take NCI level 1 if you haven't yet, and start coming into this commander mentality and mastering this stuff. And yeah, that's all I got. I hope you have a good weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for spending some time with me. And I will see you next Friday. Love y'all. Thank you. Take care.